What's going on, guys? It's your boy Sly Jordy, and welcome back to F1 23, my team career mode. Here we are. Second race beckons. Of course, the first race at Bahrain didn't do so well. We ended up having a bit of a massive feud during the race with Alexander Albon. A rivalry brewing, perhaps. He brake checked us, essentially. I swear he brake checked us. Knocked off part of our front wing, and we ended up having to pit. And we just ended up almost 20 seconds behind, second to last place, or third to last place, because Bottas DNF'd. It wasn't good, but we showed a lot of potential during that race. The car had some decent pace. We clearly aren't the slowest car on the grid. So now we go into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Jeddah, a track that I'm actually kind of afraid of because I've never driven on it. I've driven a little bit on my own in that first live stream we did, just to, experience the track for the first time, because obviously the last F1 game I played was 2020. We're doing a little bit of some upgrades, some R&D. I do miss the skill trees, the R&D tree, that's what it was called, which is completely against what I'm usually like, because I hate skill trees, but it really worked in F1. I did say that in my F1 2018 video last week, and I will back that up here. But yeah, we do some of our upgrades here because obviously we want to keep up to date with it. Durability and chassis are the ones we're going to have to focus on a little bit more, because they're playing some catch up. But yes, Jeddah, I'm a bit afraid because I've never actually taken part in a race on Jeddah. Obviously at this point I have, but at the time of recording it was going to be my first race, so this could go horribly wrong at a time where, quite frankly, we really do need quite frankly, we have a point to prove. After what happened at Bahrain, we had some potential, but we ended up finishing second to last, and we weren't last because Bottas again DNF'd. So we go into Jeddah with a point to prove. We want to get as near to the points as possible, maybe even get a point, although I don't see that happening just yet. Again, we are completely new to the grid. We are one of the worst on the grid, joint worst. But at some point we are going to be the worst, quite simply because we just don't have as much budget as all the other teams we're competing with. People like AlphaTauri, people like McLaren, and Alpine, of course, the same engine as us, but significantly higher budget. I thought I'd have a look at the free agent market. Not that we're going to replace Drugovich anytime soon. He is the reigning F2 world champion and has actually gotten some F1 experience, if you guys remember Bahrain testing in real life. So out of everybody in F2, Drugovich is probably the best choice to go with. He's got 3 years of F2 experience, culminating in becoming the F2 champion. And of course, you might have noticed last episode I actually forgot to put some of the sponsor stickers on, so we're doing that now. Of course, we only have one sponsor so far, but once we get up to that acclaim level 5, we'll be able to get another sponsor. But I am liking our initial livery. Obviously it could be better, and to be honest, at this point I've already made a much better livery on F1 World. I want to make a video on F1 World at some point, or at least do some live streams on it. But yes, this is our car with I've not put sponsor stickers everywhere, but I wanted to put them there just just to show that we're actually doing that. So obviously I was still exploring a little bit of the menus here, but without further ado, it's time to get into qualifying, essentially our first ever laps of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And yeah, here we go, coming round the final corner, Q1, qualifying 1. Yeah, this is my first lap, first push lap on Jeddah, so I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's a very narrow track, and in hindsight, in retrospect, this is actually one of the more difficult F1 tracks I've ever tried, to be quite honest. It's really nice to watch. It is very, very entertaining to watch because it is such a fast track, but to drive on, it actually turns out to be incredibly difficult, as you will see. This sector right here, I actually struggle on quite a lot, but yeah, there you go, already exceeding track limits a little bit, but it's a bit lenient on this game. Would be a different story if I put it on strict, but that sector towards the end of sector 1 in particular is where I struggled quite a lot, but so far we seem to be doing okay, not the worst in the world, but we are not doing the greatest. A little hit of the wall right there, no damage at all. Again, I don't really know what setup to go with in JEDDAH, really. I want to experiment with some of the setups we do, look a little bit online to kind of gauge what the meta is for certain tracks, but I definitely want to edit it to my own liking. But I didn't do that with JEDDAH. We end up doing that in a future episode, but with JEDDAH, I haven't done that. But here we go, coming round the final corner. It is a 124 so far. What are we going to end up with as we cross the line with a 131? P5, good enough for P5, but we're going to go on to our second lap now, and that lap is only good enough, well, it's only good enough to just get us to Q2, which is decent as of right now, but nobody has done their final laps yet. So here we go, on to our final Q1 lap. We're not that fast, not as quick going into it, and as luck would have it, everybody is coming out just as we are doing our Q1 lap, but Bottas gets out the way. Thank you. Drugovic, we need to get past our teammate. Is Drugovic going to get out the way for us? He does. He does get out the way. Bit of a yellow flag behind us, but that doesn't really affect us. How are we doing on this corner? Honestly, really good. It's looking really good right now. Leclerc gets out the way. It is looking beautiful right now. Straight past Stroll, as clean as you would like. And there's another yellow flag right ahead of us. For some reason, Pierre Gasly, I'm assuming, might have caused that. And he doesn't get out the way at all. And he still doesn't get out the way. He completely screws up our Q1 time. And yeah, we go right into the Grand Prix last. Or almost last. We don't make it to Q2. All because of Pierre Gasly. But I'll have you know, Gasly didn't make it neither. Now, I don't know why that is. Maybe we caused some damage to him. I don't know how hard we hit him from the back there. So, maybe he got disqualified, perhaps. Who knows? But, end of the day, we're getting a bit of bad luck in this career mode so far. So, hopefully, in the race, it picks up.
Take a look at our starting grid for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and the smooth operator Carlos Sainz completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Ocon, Bottas, Joe, Hulkenberg, Albon, Stroll, Magnussen, Oscar Piastri, the owner driver, Sonoda, De Vries, Drugovic, Sargent, Drugovic. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the run down into turn one. A bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So yeah, Gasly starts dead last, 20 seconds. Serves him right. I assume that's because he got disqualified from qualifying. That's the story we're going to go with. But we're starting in P17. We're skipping the formation lap. I want to get right into this race. Our first ever race on JEDDAH. I personally have never driven a race on this track, and honestly, this was terrifying. But we got a really good start, being able to tuck just behind Ocon there, overtaking him, and we are behind the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. Lando Norris and the McLaren just in front. A big jump from P17 to P9. It's a really, really good start, and honestly, you're going to see that becomes a bit of a characteristic of my racing style throughout this series. I really like to dive at the start. Now, obviously, this is going to bite me in the arse sooner or later, but this does not seem to be one of those occasions. Fernando Alonso does overtake us again, but our objective is to pretty much stay around here, P9, P10. We want to get a point as early as possible because we need to prove a point after what happened in Bahrain. But this is an excellent start. We couldn't have really asked for much better given the amount of space that we had. And honestly, we got a decent advantage here, but you can really tell how weak our car is compared to others because these guys are all in medium tyres. We are on the soft tyres. So we're on the quicker tyre compound, but we're clearly not the quicker car. And we do have a bit of space. Ocon is pressuring us behind. Alonso is starting to build a gap up front, and I think we do need to give up on that. And I think we kind of have, as I am not using ERS anymore, as we cross the line for our first lap in P9, which is a very, very good start. And it remains that way. Alonso pulls out further ahead, stretches the lead out to 2 seconds as Esteban Ocon is pressuring us, and we're going to pull out a sly move here, no pun intended, wink wink, it really was. We're going to let Ocon pass us at the DRS detection zone, so we get DRS. So basically we let Ocon take P9, and now we are going to take it back, diving a little bit into turn 1, going around the outside. Ocon does try to keep the position, but it is a clean overtake. End of the day, a beautiful, beautiful overtake. And now we go towards the end of lap 6. Valtteri Bottas looking to prove a point as well after his DNF. Ocon blitzes past us, completely took me off guard. And I didn't even think I got DRS, but apparently he overtook me right before the DRS detection zone. I didn't do this on purpose this time. And again, we're able to get the overtake on Ocon. So a bit unlucky on his part, a bit of luck going our way for once. And once again, we pull out the same exact maneuver. He did take me off guard though, because 1 second I'm looking behind, Bottas is there, and then next thing I know, Ocon is screeching down the right. But at this point, Norris has a lead 4 seconds ahead as we knock our front wing off. Literally on the lap we were going to pit on, or at least a lap earlier. So the damage isn't as bad, but we really need to pick it up in terms of avoiding taking damage. And I think this goes with the fact that we're on the worst car. Durability isn't at its best, and of course we tried to change strategy, and guess what, we got the same glitches we did back in Bahrain. And we're not going to pit this lap though. We're not going to pit because I feel like we still have a decent amount of pace. We also want to stay as far in front of Albon as possible, especially after what he did last race. And to be honest, maybe I did it a little bit out of spite just to make sure he does stay behind us. Of course, we did also stay out a lap longer, just to stay as close to the points as we possibly could. I didn't want to pit a lap earlier than everyone else, quite simply because we would lose time. And again, exceeding track limits there, we are really struggling, especially in Sector 1. But the reason we stayed out this long is because Sectors 2 and 3, it's a lot easier in terms of, you know, the left part of the wing, because most of the turns are to the right. I mean to the left, I think. Yeah, to the left. So I opted to stay out, even though Ocon and Bottas are now stretching their lead in front of me to about 4 seconds. So at this point, because of our little mistake, we may have lost out on the points, or maybe it was a long time coming. Maybe it would have happened eventually. Maybe they could have done an overcut strategy where they ended up out in front of me or something. Either way, we kind of overstayed our welcome there as Lance Stroll now overtakes us. Alexander Albon screeches past us as well. We're going to go down the inside here, tuck behind Albon. We want to keep Guan Yu Zhou behind us as well, and at this point, having lost about 4 positions, we're going to overtake here. George Russell has a huge problem with his car. We're going to overtake him Vettel style as we go into the pits right now. So obviously we want to change tyres here. I think I wanted to go to the mediums because it's Jeddah, obviously. I felt like a lot of people were going to try going to the hards as well, and again, even worse luck. Just like the race beforehand, the wing, we got more problems, and we spend almost 10 seconds in the pits as George Russell pits for the hards, and he overtakes us. But quite frankly, he's not part of our fight. He goes way ahead at this point. And eventually, lap 13 comes around, and we are behind Oscar Piastri and Alexander Albon. Hopefully, we can get pretty close to Albon, as we now try and stick behind Piastri as much as possible. Yuki Tsunoda is almost 3 seconds behind us, and then Magnussen is even further behind on the hards. I don't think we will have to worry about Magnussen, but Tsunoda we might have to, because even though on the R&D chart AlphaTauri are worse than us, they're the worst on the grid this season, quite frankly, the R&D doesn't tell the whole story. Of course, we are the worst car in terms of durability, and that counts for tyre wear as well. I don't know if I mentioned it last episode, or if I mention it in a future episode, but Yuki Tsunoda ends up really pulling on us. Piastri and Albon end up pulling away, and again, just like I mentioned last episode in Bahrain, you can get stuck on the curbs, and that's what happens here. Yuki Tsunoda goes well over half a second in front of us after that little mistake from us, and like I said, that corner in particular in sector 1 is something I really struggle with, and something that I'm going to have to practice a lot on. But honestly, this is going a lot better than I thought it would. You know, we only crashed a little bit, and honestly, it was just our luck that it was a lap before we were supposed to pit, so we were able to negate the damage quite simply on timing. But we are battling with Yuki Tsunoda. This is for pride. This isn't for points at this point. We know we're going to get nowhere near the points at this point, because Albon and Piastri, they are stretching it 4 seconds ahead. And now behind Yuki Tsunoda, we are about to, we should get DRS, which we do. Are we able to overtake Tsunoda right here? For some reason, they're calling me into the pits. I can't remember why that was. I must have cut it out. Maybe I have a little bit of minor damage on the front wing, but it's clearly not enough to impact us, as we once again do the outside overtake on turn 1. That's the 3rd time now. We are actually pretty good at turn 1, as it seems, at least in terms of overtaking. So, yeah, very good. And now we move on to lap 17 as Yuki Tsunoda, little bit of contact right there going into the final corner, and we get a warning for that. So it's nice to see that the FIA warnings are still broken from all the way back in F1 2018, or it probably goes back further than that. But in every single F1 game that I've played since getting interested again in F1 this year, that has been a problem. People crash into me, and then it's supposedly my fault. And because of that, we're not able to catch up to Tsunoda enough to be able to do the outside overtake into turn 1. But we are still able to stick as close to him as possible, and as we go into the final corner on lap 18, we're pretty close to him still, and we're going to get DRS, and this is going to be the easiest overtake of the entire race thus far, quite simply because we were just so close to him, and we're going to get the overtake early here. We're going to cover off the inside, and that's as clean as you like. That is a beautiful overtake, and just like I said, we showed a lot of potential in Bahrain, and we are really pushing the car to its limits right now. But obviously, as we got further into the race, a few laps later, lap 21, we were actually starting to catch up to Oscar Piastri, and it seems as though Albon was doing some aggressive defending, just like he did with us, and obviously Piastri has taken some front wing damage. It seems to be minor, or maybe, yeah, it seems to be minor, otherwise he would have pit by now, but it is major enough for Albon to keep P11, so yeah, we're going to get a little DRS overtake on Piastri here. Getting a little bit of his slipstream, and again we're going to do an outside overtake, squeezing him there and cutting him off a little bit on the exit just to make sure we get it. We seem to have pulled a little bit on Alexander Albon as well. There seems to have been some sort of contact between Albon and Piastri, and it slowed them both down. But lap 24, and Tsunoda overtakes us. Albon has stretched his lead to 4 seconds ahead, but we know that Williams in real life is pretty good in the straight line, so it doesn't really surprise me. But Yuki Tsunoda has done a beautiful overtake there. We do get DRS, however, so are we going to be able to get him on the outside again? He does squeeze us out a little bit there, and we get it. We show him just enough aggression to be able to get the lead there, and we're opening up half a second lead in P12. This is going to be beautiful now into the final lap, and yeah, it's been a pretty decent race, all things considered. We are the worst car on the grid, just on durability. In terms of pure pace and being able to turn the corners, we are better than AlphaTauri, but in terms of durability of the tyre wear and certain other engine components, you can see in the bottom right we're already having issues, or some sort of issue, as Max Verstappen, no surprise, takes the win here at Jeddah. We've still got the lead on Tsunoda, a decent lead at that. But here we go into another DRS zone. Yuki Tsunoda has this DRS here, and he is going to screech past us in this DRS zone. He's gonna have a much better corner there, quite simply because he was able to take the racing line, whereas we weren't quite able to. And look at how quickly he speeds off there. He must have been saving his ERS for this final lap, so much so that we're just unable to take it. And I make another mistake, this time on the other side of the wing, and you can look at the tyre wear. I bet that has something to do with it as well. We've had such a bad corner exit there that Guan Yu Zhou almost overtook us, but end of the day, a pretty good race for us, all things considered. There are 22 teams on the grid, and we finished 13th. There are 22 drivers on the grid, and we finished 13th out of them all. So honestly, that's as positive as we're going to get in the second race of the season. Things have gone a lot better than they did in Bahrain. Still pointless, but you know what? We're showing potential, and I think going into our third race, obviously we got some upgrades coming, either in the next race or the fourth race. But either way, Jeddah, pretty good race right there, but definitely scary to be on. Definitely full, like, you've got to be on it 100% of the time. It is a tough track, definitely one of the more tougher tracks that I have ever tried on the F1 game. And there's the podium: Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. So a little unsurprising there, given that it is a video game, of course. In real life, Leclerc being on the podium is always a bit of a surprise, because we know how bad Ferrari can be. But he does finish second, but it is a double podium for Red Bull. But yeah, pretty good all things considered. Valtteri Bottas also gets a point, so a little bit of redemption for him. But yeah, that about does it for this episode of F1 23 My Team Career Mode. Thank you all for tuning in and watching, of course. I really do appreciate it. Stay tuned as we show the highlights at the end of the video. But if you're not interested, either way, next episode will be tomorrow. I'm going to try and do daily uploads as we get this started. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do it forever as I go back to work pretty soon. But yeah, I'm playing this a lot, and we've got a lot more content coming up. So yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Peace.